Okay, Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. We are live and we're bringing you, inshallah, today a brand new series. It's called An Invitation to Ponder. The name is courtesy of Brother Hamza, who's joining us. Before we speak to Brother Hamza, obviously, there's no need to give an introduction, mashallah. Everyone knows him. Most of you guys know him. Hamza Ali Abbasi. He is obviously a very, mashallah, famous, and add Brother Hamza if I make any mistakes here. He's a very famous actor, and he has done many things in film and so on and so forth, and dramas, TV serials in Urdu, in Pakistan. But one thing I think that really stands out about him is his contributions towards the da'wah and towards the deen, which he has been engaging in over the past several years. And I'm really happy, bro, to have you on this and to do this with you, mashallah. I'm really looking forward to this, really excited, bro. Assalamu alaikum, Hamza. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum, Imran. Thank you for the nice words. Well, yes, you could say I used to be an actor. Now I've taken a huge break. I think it might end up being a lifelong break. And my contributions, my humble contributions, may Allah accept it, for dawah are from that feeling of urgency that I'm sure you feel as well for our fellow human beings. As the Prophet said, that imagine if a huge disaster is coming, if a huge tsunami is coming, your love, your care for other members of your family of human beings, humankind, it kind of pushes you to tell others to wake up. And I think that is the feeling which pushes you, which pushes me. And I hope Allah accepts it. And I hope we can make people, as the name of the series, if not bring them to a belief system, but at least make them think about this phenomenon that is life, which is this extraordinary phenomenon. So I hope watching us, people would start pondering over life instead of just taking it, one day at a time, doing things which are basically survival things. So I think that they'd go a step more. So let's hope so. May Allah make our words impactful, inshallah.
Inshallah. And I remember when I asked you for a title, immediately you sent me this title, like off the top of your head, and it was brilliant, mashallah, because it has that all-inclusive feeling to it. So it's not only for Muslims, it's for non-Muslims, anyone that's looking to find out about the deeper questions of life, find out about themselves, their creator, reconnect with Allah, all of these things, inshallah. And some of the topics that we've chosen, inshallah, I think cover all of these areas, such as meaning of life, what we're starting with today, Islam and science, the Quran, prophethood, the relevance of the Quran, and all of these topics, inshallah, I think will be very, very beneficial. So brothers and sisters, if you haven't already, make sure to share this with your family, friends, social media, so everyone can benefit from this too, inshallah. So Brother Hamza, let's get straight into it, bro, for this first episode. The meaning of life, the purpose of life. The very first question I have for you is, you have been on a journey, right? And mashallah, as Allah has blessed you with a public platform, many people have witnessed your journey from, if you can say, stardom to, doing the things that people desire to do, to love to do, aspire to do, want to do, to taking a totally different road and turning, like you said, turning away from it, taking a break, maybe a lifelong break, and focusing on the deen. Tell us about this journey, and please tell us, how is this to your quest for meaning, if it is connected?
Yeah, your voice is breaking up a little bit, so if we have a delay or something, I think the audience will understand. Yeah, let's get right to the point. The discussion that we're having, it has a very unanimous appeal for all mankind, because the question that we're discussing is not just limited to believers or believers in a religion or a religious philosophy, but it's a question that the entire mankind faces. And what used to keep me up at night, even though I was acting, I have a business, I was doing the things that, mostly is the first and foremost concern of every human being who comes into the world. That's, survival, mainly economic survival. You want to go about life taking care of your family. That's the first, that's your first, I guess, meaning in life, that how do I survive in this world? But at the back of your mind, what kept me up was, I think, before I tell you what kept me up, it's important to say that, thousands of years of philosophical debates, religious debates, and recent phenomenon of scientific debates, I think they have desensitized us a lot to this extraordinary miracle that is us humans. We really tend to take it for granted. Uh, Let me highlight that aspect, because even though meaning of life might be a subjective topic, but what I'm about to say is a very objective aspect of the meaning of life. What used to keep me up was, the entire universe. We see it, we know it's made of particles, atoms, protons, neutrons, electrons, but we fail to acknowledge the fact that we humans are made of exactly that same material. Somehow we distinguish ourselves, humans or life, from the other universe. Like, there is the universe, and then there is us. But what we don't realize is we are the universe. I'm made up of the exact same material. 99% of who I am is just trillions and trillions. They said about, I don't know, 10 octillion atoms of hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. And the rest is minerals. Minerals, the same inanimate matter somehow in one small part of the universe came together, became alive, became conscious. So when we say we have the capability to look around us and think, who created us? Are we just do we just happen to be here? Is there some designer behind it? It's literally the universe itself, in a small part of itself, being capable of even comprehending these questions in the first place. I remember sitting on my roof so many times and looking at the mountains and going like, yeah, that mountain is literally made up of the same material that I am. But yet here I am. I can understand my reality. I can understand myself. I have emotions. What we say emotions, what we comprehend as ethics, what we comprehend as morals. Sure, you could, attribute that to anthropological development, evolution, or sociological evolution. But the fact is, no matter what processes are involved, you and I are an arrangement of matter which has all these attributes. And that would keep me up at night. Like, why? I mean, I could attribute that to accidents, a couple of coincidences, but the fact remains that in all of this plethora of matter, I exist, there is a me, and I'm capable of all of these things. So that was always the first thing, the only thing actually that did not let me let go of the existential questions or the bigger questions of life. So I would say that you could have your own meaning in life, or parts of meanings. For some people, what I will have for lunch could be their meaning of life, or what will have for dinner, or maybe my next social commitment might be their meaning of life. But on an objective scale, I think every human being, the very fact that every human being is capable of wondering and understanding our reality, that makes it a compulsion on every human being to do so. Because let us not forget, in our observable universe, in our observable reality, we're the only arrangement of matter which is capable of doing this one thing, understanding our reality. Nobody else can. And identifying maybe design or lack thereof, and wondering, are we here just by chance, or somebody created us? So I think because because we're the only ones who can do this, we should do this. Each one of us, whenever we find time from our commitments. I wouldn't call our social, emotional commitments or financial commitments as meaning of life. They're not the meaning of life. The meaning of life is to find your own meaning by this plethora of existence that is around us, and trying to ponder over them. And hence this invitation to ponder, to wonder, why are we here? And if we don't do that, it'd be such a waste. And it'll be such a waste, because
Absolutely.
imagine you're the only one capable of doing something in this entire universe, and you don't do it, and you have very limited time. So no matter what,
Wow.
whoever is watching, no matter what your belief is, you could be of any religion, faith, or maybe you're an atheist, agnostic, it doesn't matter. I beg all of you to keep doing this one thing till you die. We have very limited time. To keep wondering till you reach your grave, that what is this all about? What am I all about? And from that, I found my meaning in life. I think realizing that there is some mind behind it who designed it, because the integrated complexity. I mean, imagine something happened 13 billion years ago, and it's byproduct right now. Doesn't matter what processes are involved. We, I think, get lost in the discussion about the processes so much. Whether it was Big Bang, whether it was evolution, whether it was single cell, we get lost in the discussion of the processes so much that we lose the focus on what really matters. It doesn't matter. In my human perception of time, fine, 13 billion years ago, something happened. I am here. And that is the point we need to focus on. And from that, it's very easy to get to a point. There must be some mind behind it. Even Neil deGrasse Tyson these days and Richard Dawkins, they do admit that there does seem like somebody designed it, but they attribute it to aliens.
Yep,
it's very easy to, so it's very easy to get to this point when you look at the reality around you and look within you. It's now an inescapable fact. I mean, a man maybe 100 years ago could have been forgiven for thinking this is all coincidence, chance, this matter coming about. I don't think it's not considered a serious hypothesis now by even the most staunch atheists.
Absolutely,
what
bro. And
Islam did for me, just the last thing.
Yes, carry on, please.
Yeah, so I got here very quickly, actually, and in a very short amount of time. What Islam did was it gave me the identity of that phenomenon, which created everything. That's what I discovered in Islam, to a point where I had no reason to deny it, and hence, so Quran कहता है ना कि then you have to surrender. When you realize something as a rational intellectual truth, then you have to surrender to it, and that's what I did. Allah कहता है ना, willingly or unwillingly, you surrender. So I just had to surrender to it. So Islam just gave me the identity of our designer, maker, creator, sustainer. And the fact that I exist and the reality around me exists made it an inescapable thing that I have to think about it. So yeah, that was like in a crux, my thought process, which led me to where I am today.
So bro, we're going to explore that inshallah a lot more now as we go along. But subhanAllah, when you were story, it reminded me of something similar I've gone through, experienced as well. And you hit the nail on the head when you spoke about existential questions. And these questions are something people can't run away from. They're just inescapable. Everyone at some point in their life, no matter how busy they are, they will think about, okay, why do I exist? What's my purpose? And it's because as human beings, we're purpose driven. Like you said, even the most trivial things we do in our life, for example, waking up and brushing our teeth, having breakfast, it's all purpose driven. There's a reason, there's a why behind it. Always, anything we do. So when it comes to our existence, surely there must be a greater reason. And what's really interesting, you also picked up on the point that some agnostics and atheists may turn around and say, when you made the point about reflecting and us being a part of the universe that can reflect upon itself, we can reflect over things and think about things and ask the question of why do I exist? Some atheists will turn around and say, this is due to evolution. We've evolved with higher rational faculties so we can survive. That's what they have to put it down to. But why I always turn around and ask them, if it's all about survival, including our rational faculties, it's geared towards survival, then why would we end up with the ability to ask questions which leave us in a crisis? And an existential crisis which prevent us from survival in some cases. Because literature is clear on this. Many people have committed suicide, gone into so that doesn't really add up from that perspective. And we know some of the existentialist philosophers from the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries, they heavily focused on these questions. But because most of them were atheist, they concluded that there is no ultimate meaning. Right? There's a very interesting philosopher. His name's Albert Camus, an Algerian philosopher. He basically concluded that life has no meaning, but and he called it the absurdity of life, the absurd, which is there is no meaning to life, but we still can't help look for meaning as human beings. So this is a paradox. And he tried to give alternatives to how to deal with this paradox. And they came up with ideas such as live responsible lives, live good lives, be upright. And they gave all of these values. They included this value system. But again, the question comes, and we'll discuss this maybe in another episode, how do you come up with values in the absence of God? What grounds them? What's your anchor? You don't have it. So the question of meaning and purpose, bro, I really believe is huge. And another point you made, which is brilliant, and I think we need to expound upon a bit more, is the focus element, that people are focusing on the how a lot. how
Yeah.
did the universe begin? How did the Big Bang happen? What's the intricate details? Whereas we're completely therefore missing the bigger question about why. What's the why behind it? And Allah in
Yeah,
the
and may I
Quran.
add
Yes,
one
bro.
more
Yes,
thing.
please.
Sorry to cut you off. You just mentioned that agnostics or atheists or people who don't affiliate with any religion, they give a lot of explanations that why are we the way we are? Why do we have this innate sense of somehow wanting a higher power? And they have a lot of theories which are anthropological or sociological in nature, like the Big Brother syndrome. I'm sure you're familiar with it. That we wanted to find comfort in uncertainty, and then there is a theory that people needed to control the masses, and hence they came up with the concept of God. I also used to indulge myself in these theories for my intellectual stimulation, until I realized, Imran, that we need to tell this to people. These are all conjectures. These are all personal opinions. For example, why did humans come up with the concept of religion? We only have 5,000 years of history. What happened before that? Let's just admit our limitations. We have no idea what happened before it. So ye jo hamare, our young generation gets very impressed by these theories. They think it has a very solid founding. They think, oh, we found archaeological evidences and fossil. We didn't. This is actually all conjecture. For example, I was hearing this guy. I'm very bad with names and dates.
So am I, bro.
Then I
I'm
give
the
a
same.
reference.
I'm the
Yes,
same.
I
Don't
was
worry about it.
Yes, I was hearing this guy with a huge following. I'll text you his name later on. He said, oh, religion came about when we made the progress from being a hunter-gatherer society to an agricultural society. When we settled down, that's when religion came about, because religion was a philosophy that people needed to control the masses, because population was expanding. And I was thinking, how do you know it? Like, literally, how do you know it?
Yeah.
Fine. I mean, 5,000 years ago, we just find ruins. I mean, Gobakali Tepe, 13,000 years ago, nothing. No writing, no nothing, just a temple. So, how did you come up with this whole philosophy that because we transitioned to an agricultural society, because we settled, hence religion came about? And you say it with so much certainty that there could not be another reason. But then, whatever you're saying is based on conjecture. So, people should know that anything, any claim about our existence or our behaviors that we do before 5,000 years. I mean, after 5,000 years, we had writing, we kind of know what was going on, it improved the writing. But before that, whatever opinions you see, no matter how many PhD a person has, please know they are their own opinions, conjecture, connect the vague dots. It's not ke acha ji, double PhD, if some guy has said that, it has to be true. It's not. We just don't know. I think our success, or at least my success, my intellectual success, I consider it, was rooted in the foundation when I realized our limitations. We just don't know what was going on before 5,000 years, and hence
Yes.
it's open to discussion. Sorry, I just need to put that in.
No, that's a brilliant point, and it's good because your highlight is it's because they have paradigms, isn't it, bro? So they have a certain paradigm that they're approaching the subject with. Now, if you take a purely secular lens to the subject of religion, you're gonna have to come to certain naturalistic conclusions. You don't
Like
have
a
a choice.
predisposed mindset ke
Yes.
God to hai nahi na, to hence
Exactly.
maybe we transition from here to here. So
Yeah,
that is
we need
coming
to do
from, you
something.
said it exactly right, predisposed mindset. You're right. Sorry,
Absolutely. So this is the thing, and they would have to come up with an explanation which fits the naturalistic paradigm. So just because they have to do that, it doesn't mean it's true. It's just what they're limited to and what they have to work with, right? But like you said, unfortunately, we get influenced by the PhD, and this person's from the West, or he has this beautiful suit, beautiful tie, he's a professor, and that's it. We just go with it. But the reality is, like you said, a lot of it's conjecture, a lot of its conclusions based on a limited paradigm, and therefore you just don't know. So you should keep an open mind from this perspective. But I think going back to the point you made earlier, bro, about we are focusing a lot on the how and not on the why. And I think one of the reasons for this as well, again, it's because of our understanding of the scientific method. Because one thing I also always try to emphasize, because normally people like extremes. It's either I hate science or I love science. I'm all about science or I don't want nothing to do with science. But there's a middle ground. Science is a beautiful method, and we're going to have an episode on this separately, inshallah. But it's a beautiful method. It's a gift from Allah, but we have to understand it. It has its limits. It's limited to the physical. It can only tell you about the material world, right? And therefore, science naturally focuses on the how, because it doesn't have, like they say, it doesn't have a foot in the door when it comes to the why. Therefore, it's not why is not a question of science. Now, just because the why is not a question of science, it doesn't mean the why isn't a question, right? So people need to understand this, that just because science can't deal with it, it doesn't mean it's true. And a lot of atheists, I don't know if you've come across people like this. They say, I believe in science, I don't believe in God.
Right? I was one, man. I was one of those.
SubhanAllah. So I think it's important for people to understand this, and we'll definitely do an episode on this where we go into a lot more detail and break these things down. But going back to the question of why, bro, and the question of purpose and meaning. So you made your journey, right? Let me ask you this question, bro. When was it that you realized I need to make this transition? Was it a moment, or was it, a long period of time? Was it a slow thing that took place? How did it happen?
Oh, it was very slow. It was very slow. I think it was step by step. But first, can I comment on something that you said, which I need to add on to, because it's so true that science is considered, the more we progress in science, somehow it addresses existential matters. Progress in science has nothing to do with the solution of existential questions. Because again, as you said, I hope our youth understands that it deals with the how things happen, and that too material things. And it should be said here that, human beings for our known written 5,000 history, we're concentrating on most of that history. We're concentrating on the whys and trying to find out the answers to that, which resulted in 4,000 years of philosophy, right? Aristotle, Socrates, trying to figure out why things are the way they are. Until about 400, 500 years ago, when, humankind decided that, listen, asking the whys for 4,000 years really hasn't gotten us anywhere, right? We're more answerless than we were before. So let us not ask why. Let us only ask how, and only focus on things that we can observe, we can see, we can measure. And that led to such a great scientific, explosion of technology. Enough that you and me are talking right now, even though 6,000, 7,000 miles away. So, you're exactly right. This point needs to be said so much to break this false perception that somehow the progress in science has led to the destruction of religion. No, it has led to the destruction of the superstition that was attached to religion. It has led destruction to the beliefs of the primitive people about the natural phenomenon, which we found out isn't true. I mean, the sun gets eclipsed because the moon comes in. The moon gets eclipsed because the sun comes in front of it. There's not a god in a chariot, right? I mean, we found that out. And as the Soviets reached the space in their first capsule, when the guy came back, it's a very famous statement that the Soviet scientist asked, "Did you happen to see any bearded guy up in the clouds or something?" And he was like, "No." They're like, no God. Because they imagined God to be a bearded man in the sky, right? Sitting up there. So progress in technology has not contributed even a little bit to solving the whys of our life. Why are things the way they are? They have told us how. We see the processes. Doesn't matter what process. The fact is that we're here. So I'm glad we're talking about this. Absolutely. Now, what you asked me, it was a very slow process, bro. It was a very slow process, and it was such a painful one, I swear. And the first eureka moment was that Allah Ta'ala कहता है ना कि will show you anfusu afaq ki nishaniyan, will show you signs within yourselves, and will show you signs around you in the cosmos and your reality around you. Even before I knew the Quran properly, that is exactly what happened to me. I looked in myself. I think it takes a huge leap of faith now to look within yourself, starting from the very atom all the way up to a molecule, DNA, then forms organs, brain, my consciousness, my mind, and believe that, just happened, coincidence, given enough time. 3.7 billion years, which is not even enough time to form one amino acid by chance. So that first realization was, which took a while, and then I looked in the cosmos. Is it like you कहते हैं ना, chaotic pile of material all around us? No. In the words of Carl Jung, some call it Jung. Uh, there's a
Allah.
there is a in all this chaos there is a cosmos, and in all this disorder there's a secret order. You just can't deny that. You just can't deny that. So I think Quran's जो अल्लाह ताला ने फरमाया कि अनफुस व आफाक की निशानियां आप देखें, और अगर आपका दिल खुला है, अगर आप stubborn नहीं है, अगर आप only if you cleanse yourself of all your predisposed ideas, whatever they may be, I think in all sincerity now there is no escape from the fact that I am not a product of coincidence. I might be designed by aliens, I might be designed by our own future self, it doesn't matter. The point is I am not a product of coincidence. If something keeps happening too frequently, because I want to keep our conversation simple. If something keeps happening too frequently, no matter how scientific words you can put into it, it's not a coincidence, right? I mean, coincidence is supposed to happen once in a while. So that took a long time. That took a short time to realize, it doesn't make sense to me that something happened in a finite past and it ended up as me coincidence. Reality around me coincidence doesn't make sense. The details we can talk about later. But then the most difficult part, Imran, was trying to find out the identity of that phenomenon. That was very difficult because unfortunately, even with us religious people, we have created so much dogma around religion for a lot of time since the past, especially us Muslims, I think since the past 200-300 years. We have created so much dogma around Islam. It's very difficult to make an inquiry and get to its very core message. You have to go through a lot of layers of dogma to go through its core message. So that was the part which took me a lot of time. But what helped me was, and I need to mention it here, I hope everybody who hasn't done this exercise, please do it. What hit the home run for me was that I checked out other philosophies of, your existence and why it is, and somehow it never made complete sense. For example, the mystic religions, they're individual experiences, right? They're very individual experiences. Religions come off as very regional phenomena. So there is always a gap, intellectual gap, always a question which is unanswered. Then I came to Islam. Islam for me was the last choice because I was born into it and I believe the dogma. And Pakistan, there's a lot of dogma about Islam. There's a lot of sects. There's a lot of claims that I don't think would make sense to any rational person. Islam was my last choice, but what I did was I put the Quran in front of me. I said, wait, now this is claimed to be the literal speech of that phenomenon which created us. The literal speech. Imagine that original consciousness, that original infinity. It spoke in words, specific words. I decided to become a blank canvas, get a factual introduction of the Quran, which is that the original phenomenon that created everything communicated with a man, Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, 1440 almost years ago, and conducted a matter on earth, right? The prophethood, Risalat, it did something on earth, and its communication of how that happened is preserved in the Quran, right? When I read it from this perspective, we'll talk about in the detail of Quran and everything. Oh, everything changed. Everything changed for me. It made rational sense. It started making intellectual sense. The Quran itself became the biggest proof of who that phenomenon is and what that phenomenon is. All I needed to do was get a factual introduction of the Quran. It's very easy for us to say Quran is guidance, Quran is a code of life, but most of us don't get the factual introduction of Quran, that it is the preserved speech of that being to a man, and it conducted a matter on a global scale in the world to prove its existence and the existence of Judgment Day. And Quran is the record of how he conducted that matter, what he spoke, why he said something that he said. That then gradually changed everything for me to a point that it answered everything where I was like, yaar, agar main ab na karunga na, to main ab badyanti karunga. I'd be, I don't know, I won't be sincere if I don't surrender to this. So that was the process. It took a very long time actually, and finally brought me peace.
Alhamdulillah, bro. So I want to get to by the end when we wrap up, inshallah. We'll go on we've hit our 30-minute mark, but I think we could carry on if you're okay with time, inshallah.
I am perfectly okay, man. I'm perfectly okay.
Okay, bro. So let's get to the point, the idea now. So say there are people watching this live stream who are looking for the meaning of life. They're looking into these bigger questions. They may currently be secular, atheist, agnostic, may not be interested or thought about the question of God. For them, the very first thing is, and I think you mentioned this near the beginning, which was on atheism, on any sort of ideology that denies God and says there is no creator, you can still have meaning, like you can still have purpose. But if we're being specific, that's the type of purpose we ascribe to ourselves. It's self-given purpose, right? So I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer, I want to do charity work, I want to do X, Y, and Z. This is purpose we give ourselves. Okay, this is not your true purpose, your ultimate purpose. Even if you give yourself this type of purpose, those people still somewhere in the back, and this happened with me as well, that I would give myself purpose. I want to do X, Y, and Z, do this, that, and the other. But still deep down inside, I felt like, but that's something I'm telling myself. What's my real purpose, right? And if there isn't a real purpose, then why even give myself a temporary purpose? What does that even mean, right? It's just a superfluous activity, pointless. So they understand that there must be an ultimate purpose. Now, in atheism, in the absence of God, if you really look at the atheist worldview, or the idea that God does not exist, because this has implications. Now, one of the implications of this is, well, then if there's no creator, that means everything that exists is by chance an accident. It's random, right? You can say it's cold, blind, random, irrational processes which have led to everything in existence, including you and me, including us as human beings. Now, if this is the case, well, then there can't be any purpose behind this. There can't be any meaning behind this. So ultimately, in the absence of God, there is no ultimate meaning. There is no ultimate purpose. Now, that doesn't sit well with human beings, because by our very nature, we are purpose-driven creatures. So this is that paradox again. So for someone in that position, I would recommend them and encourage them, and I want to know your thoughts on this as well, is to sit down and think about this for a second. Your worldview of godlessness, whether it's atheism, agnosticism, whatever it is in contradiction with your nature as a human being. Now, if there's this contradiction, that means you have to try to reconcile this. Now, how do you reconcile this? One of the things you can do is to start to explore and venture out of your worldview and look at other alternatives, right? So before I move on, I want to know your thoughts on this, Brother Hamza. Anyone, what advice would you give on this for these people?
The advice I would give is, number one, just keep searching till you die. Look, I am a Muslim now. For me, Day of Judgment, Allah Ta'ala, this whole Quran, Bible, Psalms, everything, this Nabuwwat, Risalah, this is all true now. I mean, for me, this is not a matter of belief even. I think a Muslim is the one who believes to a point of knowing that all of this is going to happen, who my creator is. But one has to keep searching till you die. You have to keep challenging your beliefs. Even Allah Ta'ala wants that. Even Allah Ta'ala wants that from us. He doesn't want us to be static in our knowledge, in our intellect. He wants us to keep challenging our beliefs with new information that comes. And keep doing that till you die. No matter what your belief is, you're atheist, agnostic, Muslim, or any other religion, please all make it your priority, a lifelong priority, to keep searching and thinking on these existential issues. Because again, as I said before, you are the only arrangement of matter in this known universe who's capable of thinking about these things. Even animals produce and consume energy to survive. Even inanimate matter does that, right? Black holes, they consume energy, stars produce energy. But these things, we're the only arrangement of matter who's capable of doing this. So please keep doing this till you die in this world. Secondly, you're absolutely right that if there is no designer behind all of this, Number one, it doesn't make sense. Now, but Imran, you now my deliberately don't indulge in detailed conversations about having is there a designer or not. I mean,
Yeah.
God, okay, we put him aside. You think aliens or our future selves. I really don't think it's a serious assumption now that there is no designer behind it. There is no intention
Mhm.
behind it. It's not a serious assumption now. If you still think that, maybe then you don't know the details of our physical reality that much,
Mhm.
or you just don't want to accept the possibility of a designer. Like that guy, yaar jo cancer se mar gaya tha, Hitchens, right?
Hitchens, yes.
In his last interview, he's like, even if there is a God, I will not believe it.
Yeah.
I will not
Apparently,
accept this
bro,
hypothesis.
apparently he even said to on one interview, and I haven't checked this myself, but I heard he said on one of the interviews that if in my last moments you hear me referring to God or calling out to God, know that it's just maybe just the condition of death. That it's I
Oh,
don't really believe
the
that.
condition of
That's
death.
that's how
Yeah.
arrogant he
So,
was.
so I really believe you need that kind of predisposed bias to now deny the fact that this is not designed or there is not, because the coincidence part, the blind chance part, it just doesn't sit well with any intellectually honest mind right now. And I really want to highlight the instance where are you familiar with Dr. James Gates?
No,
Recently, oh, dude, he made such a great discovery. People need to know about this.
mashallah.
And sorry to the people if we go off topic or we talk casually. This is supposed to be a casual
Yeah, inshallah,
talk.
absolutely.
Yeah, Dr. James Gates is somebody who's working on the string theory, right?
Mhm.
And while they were doing the equations, they found out that there are error correcting codes embedded in the very fabric of reality. That was their theoretical discovery through their
Subhanallah.
equations. The same error correcting codes that we came up with, I think, in 1940s or 50s or 30s, which are embedded in our computers, and they fix the random errors here and there. The same, structurally, the same codes.
Wow.
And please YouTube this. So he told this to Neil deGrasse Tyson, and they were doing this interview on stage. And even Neil was baffled. He's like, wait. Are you saying that there is error correcting codes embedded in the very fabric of reality? And he's like, that's what we're seeing with our equations. So there are honest people like Neil deGrasse Tyson. They are opening themselves to the hypothesis that this all may be a simulation
Mhm.
by a being. But their only problem is that they say if this is a simulation by somebody, then where did that somebody come about? And so they're stuck in the same regress of cause and
Mhm.
effect. So what we have here is a concept of something uncreated. So we're okay with
Mhm.
our beliefs. But the point is that please, especially if you are somebody who believes in coincidence, chance, blind processes, now that's an escape from the inevitable. It's literally an escape. In 2021, I don't think a serious person could have that hypothesis. So if you are of that hypothesis, if you're a believer or whatever, just please keep thinking about this till you die. And what did you ask about the question? Kya tha yaar, about the बीच में मैं conversation के भूल गया. You
The
asked me what?
any advice to the agnostics? That question, the original.
Yes, एक तो advice ये है कि don't settle for this, because
Mm.
this is you giving up. This is you not even trying. When you accept the fact that this is all blind chance and coincidence and random, it's just not you trying. I would, you should rather try and come up with the wrong conclusion than not try at all and just settle for the fact कि यार ठीक है, बस ये सब कुछ है और देखी जाएगी. And one more important thing, it's an inescapable fact that if there is no designer at all, this is all coincidence. That literally means that, okay, fine, you could self-soothe yourself by coming up with your own definitions of purpose and meaning. You could. But then you have to face the reality that ultimately nothing really matters. I mean, nothing matters. You will die, the world will die, the universe will die, the solar system is going to die, everything is going to die. So, literally, no matter what you make your purpose in this life, it will be. वो कहते हैं ना, बेबी को टीदर देते हैं एक आप कि यार चलो थोड़ी देर अपने आप को सेल्फ सूद कर लो, सेल्फ सूद योरसेल्फ. Then you must also make peace with the realization that if there is no designer, if there is no purpose, then everything amounts to nothing. It doesn't matter what I do anymore. I had that perception in my teenage. Now I realize I was fooling myself. I was literally fooling myself. And death is the biggest reason why you should keep thinking about all of this. Because what death does is it ends that short experience that I'm having right now. There's a me, right? I am. It'll end this experience. So we have a very small amount of time to think about these things. And please don't settle for this whole blind processes of nature, bas ho gaya sara kuch. I'm sorry if I sound self-righteous, but it just doesn't make sense. I would really want somebody to come up and tell me how they can look at reality, how they can look at the processes in reality and still believe this is all chance and coincidence. I would really want to know. I really
what's interesting, by when they talk about the design hypotheses, the design argument, whenever you make this with the atheists, they would say, and you compare it. So you say, for example, if a simple, like a mobile device, you won't expect this to come out of chance or form itself over millions of years or, pop out of nothing. Then, you compare it and you say, what about this entire universe? This universe must surely have a designer. And they turn around and say, well, you're comparing something man-made to something natural, right? But what they fail to realize is, what is man? Man is also a part of nature, right? Exactly. So that's another big problem, right? So, and what you're saying is very interesting, is that, or very true, that everything around us is clear. The science is going in that direction, and this is why recently, like you've mentioned, they are going with these new theories of simulation and these new types of idealism that they're talking about. They're moving, and these are agnostics and atheists or naturalists that are moving towards this direction now. And even there was, in the last century, you can argue, one of the biggest atheist philosophers, Anthony Flew. You've probably read his book.
My
There is a God.
Hero.
Yeah.
My hero.
Phenomenal book. I really recommend every atheist and agnostic who's serious about these questions to read that book. I want to know your thoughts on it, because you've referred to him as your hero.
Look,
so,
if there is, look, he's not a Muslim. He's not a Muslim. I don't care. I believe he's a sincere guy. On the day of judgment, Anthony Flew, provided he hasn't done something tremendously bad, like murder or rape or anything in his life, I personally believe that man is going to be in very good books of Allah Ta'ala. That man was so sincere intellectually.
yes.
Please take that as your role model as far as in modern times intellectual honesty. For till 93 years of age, right? He was
Very
that
old.
old.
Yes. Yeah.
He's written more than 25, 30 books about why there is no God. This is all chance, coincidence. Imagine the kind of intellectual sincerity you need, that at the age of 92, 93, you look at the Human Gene Project, you look at all the information that takes to make a human being, and now that we've mapped it, we know it, it's right there in front of us. It takes so much intellectual courage, to say, you know what, all my work that I did, I take it back. I was not true. I don't know who that phenomenon is or what that phenomenon is. It could be a God, it could be the Jewish God, Muslim God. I don't know what that is. All I know is this is not chance and coincidence. It takes huge courage. I was so inspired by that act of Anthony Flew. And he also got so bashed by the atheists that he's dying, he's scared, and that's why he's saying it. So he's a hero. He is a hero. I'm sure he's going to be in very good books of Allah Ta'ala. So please take that. Because I spent a lot of my life, I had nothing to do with religion. I had nothing to do with religion or Islam. But I also looked at something, and it made so much sense to me that if I tried to escape it, it would be intellectual dishonesty. What do? Even if you don't want to, you break your predisposed beliefs and you give in to what you think is the truth. यहाँ पे highlight करना बड़ा ज़रूरी है कि even in the Quran, I recently read it again, and I realized something, that our God, Allah Ta'ala, who he has a problem with, again and again the words being mentioned, kafirin, those who know the truth, but they don't accept it for whatever reasons. Zalimin, injustice करते हैं कि you know something कि ये बात ठीक है यार, लेकिन उसको नहीं मानते. The hypocrites, जो मानते हैं लेकिन जानते बूझते उधर भी जाते हैं. Allah Ta'ala in Quran never has a problem with someone who doesn't genuinely understand. Even in Surah Tawbah, when Allah Ta'ala's punishment was being executed on his addressees, there is an ayat which says if somebody still comes to you, O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says, I don't understand, I don't get it,
Mhm.
give him God's message and escort him to a place of
Subhanallah.
safety.
Subhanallah.
So people need to know that as long as you keep searching with sincerity, or even if you end up having the wrong conclusions, I believe you'll be fine. But not even trying. Attributing everything कि हाँ बस I exist, there is my life, everything is यार chance and coincidence बस हो गया. That I don't think is going to sit well with the being who created us, because he's going to be like, you had the most unique ability I gave you. Allah Ta'ala कहते हैं ना, we made man observant, हमने अकल दी, reason दिया so we can test him. It's all an intellectual test too. That there was an ability that only you had and you never used it. You just got distracted in everyday life. So you mentioned Anthony Flew. Jo bhi uski conclusion ho, look at him. The man kept trying. Even he was 93 years old. His mind, his heart was open. That's the attitude that we need to apply. Even us Muslims, we hang on to the belief systems that we're born with. Hence, we have so many sects, so many opposite belief systems, but we keep hanging on to them blindly, which is not a good thing. Because Islam का जो intellectual test का आपको एक order दिया गया है कि यार use your reason, analyze the निशानी, वो तो आप कर ही नहीं रहे. So please ये attitude अपनाएं, किसी भी conclusion पे पहुंच जाए. अभी I think इस्लाम को हम preach नहीं कर रहे. आप जो मर्जी हो जाए, but never give up this exercise. That is the meaning of life for me. For me, that is the purpose of life. I'm here in this short span of time, this bubble of existence. I'm a bubble of existence. I am literally all of the matter which has come alive, which has become conscious. And there is a small bubble. And only I can ask the question, why? That's my meaning of life. And that's what I would preach to others to make it a meaning of their life every day. Of course, after their struggles of survival, of they're having their economic concerns, family करना ये करना ठीक है. उसके बाद सबसे बड़ा purpose अपना ये बनाए.
Jazakallah khair, that's brilliant. And on this, bro, I want to sort of wrap up on one more last, if you like, piece of the puzzle for this discussion, which is, people may be thinking, okay, you guys are Muslim, you've spoken about meaning and purpose, you've given us some philosophical foundations to it, you've talked about it from an atheist agnostic perspective, but what does Islam say? So what does Islam offer as far as the meaning and purpose of life is concerned? So let's give them this, inshallah, to conclude with.
यार ये बहुत अच्छी बात है, बहुत अच्छी बात है. Islam is basically, we'll talk in detail, inshallah, in a puri episode. Yep. Islam is basically the conclusive, rational, and intellectual proof of the identity of the phenomenon that has made all of this. Islam is an intellectual invitation to discover the truth. Islam is an invitation of moral and ethical reformation in line with that phenomenon ka roadmap. What Islam does is it tells you that even though you might feel as a temporary bubble of existence, you're not. You are an eternal, potentially an eternal being with a very, 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 very important purpose. And that purpose is not something that requires you to do very extraordinary things. The purpose is personal improvement. Or ye wo purpose hai jispe all humanity is agreed upon. One thing actually that made me surrender to Quran was that whatever Allah Ta'ala has described as our purpose, I look at all humanity and they approve of it. So I had no reason to say no. So Islam gives you the identity of that phenomenon, which has created everything, including you and me. Islam gives you the will of that phenomenon, that why he created you, what he wants from you, and what he wants from you as your end destination, which for us is Jannat, eternal existence. And that is what Islam is. So I think in the next episodes, we should now start telling people about why Islam makes sense, because the rest of humanity, even atheists and agnostics, are saying the same thing once you get rid of the dogma in Islam. For example, Allah Ta'ala wants us to be sincere and honest human beings. What's the problem with that? Allah Ta'ala wants us to show sexually responsible behavior. He wants us to limit our sexual behavior within marriage. Even Western societies agree to it, with the difference that we say even before marriage you should be sexually responsible behavior show karna chahiye. Western societies mein hai na ki chalo after marriage don't cheat on your spouse. We say even before you get married don't cheat on your future spouse. That's what Allah Ta'ala wants from us, right? Universal truths. Sach bolo, mercy दिखाओ लोगों को, रहमदिली इख्तियार करो, parents की respect करो, लोगों को सही treat करो. The problem is that there is nothing which the rest of the humanity is not saying. So if you want to deny this message, what part of it would you deny? You can deny the dogma around it. For example, you can say, "Yaar, why does God want me to mere panche upar kar lu main apni shalwar ke? Why does he want me to do that?" ठीक है, उस पे बात हो सकती है. Maybe some people think दाढ़ी है, कई कहते हैं दाढ़ी नहीं है, कई कहते हैं पर्दा ऐसा है, पर्दा वैसा है. But those are the very specific applications के parts हैं बीच में. The overall message, I assure you, and we'll talk about it in the later episodes, is something that entire humanity agrees on. And there is no reason to reject it. That's one of the reasons I had to surrender it.
Absolutely. And also all of the things you've mentioned about good moral conduct, being upright, being good to humanity and others, and all of these moral concepts are something that are natural, but all of them also tie back with with the fact that this is ibadah, this is worship, this is worshiping our Creator, right? Because Allah says He did not create us for any other reason except to worship, to know Him and to worship Him. And ibadah isn't only through the 5 daily prayers, but it's through every action, because our every living moment should be an act of worship. And through being good, upright, thinking, even reasoning, pondering, all of these are acts of worship.
That's all worship.
Yeah.
You're so right, because that's something, mashallah, because that's something I realized much later on in life. For example, I wasn't a very good brother at one point in time. I wasn't a very good son at one point in time. I wasn't a very good friend at one point in time. But when you do worship of Allah Ta'ala, what does it mean? You obey Him and what He wants you to do. When I now try to become a better brother, a better son, a better husband, a better father, I am literally, ye wahi baat hai, worshipping Him. I'm obeying Him, I'm worshipping Him, and as a result, I'm becoming, now everybody loves me more actually in my family. They really love me more. And I'm like, that's because of Allah Ta'ala. But no.
And that's that is, subhanAllah, again, that's such a profound point that, much of the times when we start practicing Islam again, when Muslim youth especially, they actually do more damage in the family in many cases than good, because they start imposing things on people straight away and all of this stuff. But it's about, let Islam manifest, at least with your family to start with, manifest through the way it changes you. SubhanAllah, and you're a beautiful example of this. That you.
For example, ek aur main misal deta hu. I'll answer a very frequently asked question through your show. People ask me, why are you suddenly so quiet on social media? Because I don't know if you've Googled me, I was known for being very outspoken.
Yes.
I spoke on anything under the sun because I'm a very highly opinionated person, right? I became very quiet, and a lot of people really appreciate that you used to land up in controversy after another. Now you don't. What's happened to you? And I tell them that's also because of that whole worship of Allah Ta'ala, because He's told me that I'm going to be responsible for every word that I speak in public. I'm going to be answerable for it. Its effects on people, its byproduct on people. That has made me very scared. Allah Ta'ala has told me not to judge others. Badgumani se bacho. Ab main wo nahi karta. Naturally, my vice, which was previously my vice, a fault in me, automatically got fixed because I only listened to Allah Ta'ala. So that's what worship is. If worship is only making you impose certain actions or beliefs on others and not making you into that kind of person that Allah Ta'ala wants you to be, that He wants to populate His Jannat with, then that's not worship. That's somewhere ego. Okay, I believe it, now you have to follow it. So it has to change you. That is the ibadah. That is the worship. And then you'll see the spillover effect on everybody. So even a point clarify karna tha, I become so quiet because of the message I see in Quran that every letter I type, I will be answerable for it on the day of judgment. And that should scare a lot of people. Isn't social media pe free comments and ilzams and making fun of others. And I now fail to understand how can somebody believe in Quran and Islam and Allah Ta'ala and show this kind of behavior, which we see on our social medias and all the
Absolutely,
platforms.
bro. It's about submission at the end of the day. You know, if we claim to be Muslim, someone that submits to Allah, then that comes with a responsibility. There are implications, right? Which are you have to put Allah first, above yourself, above your ego, above your desires, and all of these things. And that's the challenge. You know, that it's not going to be
And that
easy.
makes you and if you listen to the core message, it makes you a universally good person. There's nothing to जिस पे आप एतराज करें. किस चीज पे एतराज करेंगे कि यार झूठ ना बोलो, सही बात है, सिंसियर हो जाओ, अच्छे इंसान, kindness दिखाओ. What I think we should talk about in the next episode is the universality of the message of Islam. कुरान में अल्लाह ताला कहते हैं ना कि यार अल्लाह आपको is calling you to such a good thing. Why do you keep resisting it? What is wrong with you? इसमें क्या ऐसा problem है that you guys keep resisting it? So I think that is what we should talk about in the next episode. Hello?
So what we'll do, bro, in the next episode, we can do the one on the Quran.
Yeah.
Or
Your voice is really breaking up.
Yeah, I lost signal for a second. Sorry. So I was just saying, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Okay. So I was saying next episode, inshallah, we can talk about the Quran, and we'll break it down into two or three sections. Proofs of the Quran, relevance of the Quran, and the universality of the Quran. I think that would be a very interesting topic to touch upon, inshallah. And obviously, mashallah, we've gone for about an hour today. So inshallah, if we go for another, maybe go to 40 to 50 minutes next week, we can cover all of this comprehensively as well, inshallah.
I know.
Any last words?
Let's chat away, man. Last words again, meaning of life. Please make it a lifelong exercise to keep asking the questions that only you are capable of asking in our entire universe. Keep wondering, keep checking your beliefs, keep challenging your beliefs, and please never stop asking the bigger questions of life. I'm begging you, we have limited time. Death is coming soon. Don't stop asking the questions.
Jazakallah khair, Hamza bhai. It was absolutely brilliant having you on, mashallah. And I think this will, inshallah, will benefit lots of people and the future episodes too. We will do a Q&A, if it's okay with you, at the end of the series, because I think
yes, I love it.
Because normally there's loads of questions. So brothers and sisters, if you have questions, just make a note of them, and we'll do a whole session on just questions and answers maybe at the end, inshallah. We'll address
Great idea. Great idea. Lovely talking to you. Lovely being in touch with you, yeah. And let's keep talking on it very frequently, inshallah.
Inshallah, bro. May Allah bless you. Speak to you next time, bro. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.